In this video, you will learn how to configure SQL statements and how to use them inside the brixxbox application. We start with the SQL statements panel inside the configuration menu, and I prepared two different statements for this video. Let's start with the first statement, and this will select us the ID from top one row, it's just one record, where the name is like our parameter my address name. And for testing purposes, I added test request parameters my address name with the value zeta, and if I click that, I get a 45. 45 is the record ID of the address with the name zeta in it. So if I would have two or more parameters, I would have to list them here. Just like that. And so on. But as I have just one parameter, I don't need to do that. So let's get back to our statement list. And we will have a look at the second statement that will get us a list of addresses, so a complete result set, where the name is like a part of our name, my address name. And in that case, I just put an A in it, and let's have a look what happened. So here is we get a list of addresses all with an A in the name. Let's see how to use them. I prepared an app for that. And just to give you a quick overview, we have two rows here, and the first row will handle our statement where we get a list of addresses. So our name field here is where we can put in the search value for the address, let's say an A, and the button next to it will get us a result of records for that request. To demonstrate the output, I will log that to the console because it's pretty much easier and I can drill down into the data. The second one will get us exactly one address ID, and in that case I don't care about the input field here. I will always get the address ID for the name zeta, as in our example. So what does the source code for that looks like? In our first case, we have the function SQL read from our Brix API, and we just put in as parameters the name of the SQL statement. In our case, get addresses. Just to mention here that we don't care about our my address name parameter because we have a field in our application with exactly that name, and when we don't provide that name as a parameter here, the brixxbox will automatically take all the fields in the application and add them as parameters to our SQL statement. So in most cases, it's not necessary to list all the statement with all the values as the second parameter that will, in a lot of cases, done automatically by the brixxbox. We then log the result to the console. And let's have a look how that behaves. I just, for testing, put a Y in it and click on the read button, and we log the result to the console. So we should have a Y in every name here, so that's pretty fine. And we'll see we get a list of arrays, and each array element is an object with our record, with an ID, name, first name, and so on. So that's a pretty complex table. But we can work with it. We can run with a for loop or something over it, or use it for a data table or something. So I will clean it up, type something more in it, let's say this, and in that case we get just one record. When I leave that empty, we should get them all. Yeah, get all the addresses because it's always true, and so on. So our second statement looks a little bit different. in this case, I don't want to rely on my address name on that field. I will provide the value for the parameter fix in this call. So I don't care what's in the field. I will always provide zeta as a value for that. And it is to mention we don't use SQL read function. We use SQL read value because that makes it a lot more convenient for us. We just want to get a single value. We want to get the 45, that's the record ID of the zeta address. And if we would use that with SQL read, we would get an array with a line in it. And in that single line that is a JavaScript object with the ID property in it. We could handle that. That is totally fine, but it's not the most convenient way to do that inside the source code. Therefore, we get a SQL read value function, and that will read exactly one value. Our result set is perfectly one value. We had the top one in it, and we just selected the ID column, so this will always have just one line or 0 lines in a case when it's nothing found, but there is never a table, a more complex table there. But it could. And if the result from our SQL statement is a complex table and we use the SQL read value function, we will get the upper left cell of that result set. So to demonstrate that, I just click the read function or the test here. I close that and I clean up the console. And when I read that here, we get the 45. So that's exactly our zeta value. I could check that with another. Let's see what's on other names out there. We name this value. I copy that and put that in here. Remove the double quotes, make it right again, and then I click the read value and we get the 48, not the 45 anymore. So that's the way to work with SQL statements inside the brixxbox. You can then use this information to work with it to move it to a field or make a decision based on the value you got here. All right, I hope you learned something and have a nice day.